This creepy story starts in a lake house, where a young lady named Teresa is perched by the water paying attention to music. Unexpectedly, a man named Caleb shows up behind her, making her leap in shock. Caleb begins ridiculing her and Teresa ends up being furious and proposes he go check on his sweetheart Jessica, who has been feeling wiped out, yet Caleb answers that he has proactively given her medication and she is resting, so there is compelling reason need to overreact. Following that, Teresa enters the lodge. What's more, sees Jessica resting in the bed. Teresa sits down in a close-by seat. Furthermore, discreetly begins to peruse the Gothic exemplary Wuthering Levels. Unexpectedly, Jessica starts to recount lines from the book in a contorted voice, and Teresa is alarmed by seeing her sitting in the bed. A couple of seconds after the fact, Jessica staggers to the ground and Teresa hurries to check on her companion. However, out of the blue, had Jessica tears Teresa's scalp from her head regardless of her wounds. Teresa slithers towards the dock to alarm Caleb of the horrifying episode, who is stunned to see her state as tumult results. Jessica gets the robot and cuts her own face with it prior to falling into the water. Caleb is confused by the turn of offense and bounces into the lake to her salvage. However, he turns out to be damaged. Submerged now, Jessica tosses his dismantled head towards Teresa, previously arising unfavorably from the profundities of the lake. Next, the scene changes to a day sooner, uncovering the occasion that drove up to this occasion. We see a lady named Beth at a club with the band she works with. In the restroom, she tensely takes a pregnancy test and it returns positive. She is clear truly stressed about the outcome. Beth chooses to visit her sister Ellie for exhortation. Ellie. Somewhere else, we see Ellie, who lives in an old condo in Los Angeles. She works as a tattoo craftsman and lives with her three youngsters: Danny, a hopeful DJ, Bridget, who is a reasonable little girl, and the most youthful one, Cassie. All of a sudden, Bridget gets a thump at the entryway from her neighbor Jake, who has a pound on her. Anyway, she declines his greeting to see a bad dream on Elm Road. Not long after, Beth shows up at Ellie's place, and it would appear the sisters are alienated and have a pained relationship. Beth provides for everybody except when she takes out a gift for their dad. They all appear upset. Ellie then, at that point, sends her three kids out to purchase pizza and uncovers to her sister that she's been isolated from her better half for quite some time. Beth is shocked by this and asks Ellie why she didn't illuminate her sooner. Ellie answers that she had left her messages 2 times, however got no reaction. Now Beth understands her slip-up and apologizes to her sister. However, Ellie is as yet irritated. In the interim, as the children are getting back with pizza, a huge tremor raises a ruckus around town region, leaving a sinkhole in the stopping parcel. And when the ground quits shaking, Danny investigates the opening and finds an loft inside. Among the trash, he sees a few sacred relics monitoring explicit things like the Necronomicon Ex Mortis, also known as Book of the Dead. He chooses to return the book to the condo, accepting that their mom can sell it. Inflexible is against this arrangement and cases that their mom won't cash something he took, yet Danny is resolved. On top of that, he likewise gets a portion of the vinyl records he finds with the book. In the interim, back at the condo, Ellie is worried about her children and nearly goes off with her neighbor Gabriel to find them. Anyway, the children before long return and Ellie embraces them firmly, feeling assuaged that they are protected. Now Danny, what's more, Bridget go into the room, and keeping in mind that inspecting the book, Danny cuts his hand. What's more, spills a portion of his blood on it, which makes the book open. They run over A few stunning pictures in it which alarms Bridget and makes her nearby. The book she lets Danny know that she could do without it and that he really wants to put it back right now anyway after she leaves. Danny plays the records which notice the awful capability of the book is directed by the clerics. These clerics conflicted with the congregation to study it yet endured the fallouts that accompanied it. Now Danny becomes unfortunate. What's more, attempts to stop the record, however it proceeds to play, and as he watches in dread, the pages of the book start to turn on their own in the meantime. As Ellie gets back to the lift conveying her possessions, we notice a vile power moving toward their structure, and when she ventures beyond the lift, Ellie is gone after by an undetectable evil spirit, and the lift starts to plunge, causing her to pass out. When she at long last recovers cognizance, she feels a sharp aggravation in her head and weeps for help while endeavoring to escape anyway. The inconspicuous evil presence begins torturing her, limiting her with the lift wires in a merciless way to add to the awfulness. The Ellie's demise power abruptly removes, and Bridget illuminates Beth that it appears to be a blackout influencing just there working. As Danny examines the wire box and Bridget lights candles, Ellie shows up at the condo, moved by a wicked power known as Edith. She goes into the kitchen, turns on the gas, and begins tossing eggs into a griddle, some of which are loaded up with blood. Her family is alarmed by this sight, and Beth attempts to comprehend what is occurring. However, Ellie starts acting whimsically and discusses tearing her youngsters separated and moving into them. Unexpectedly, Ellie starts retching fiercely. Furthermore, implodes on the floor, which outlines the kids. Briefly, the genuine Ellie returns and illuminates Beth that a evil presence has kidnapped her and beseeches her to save her youngsters. She right away implodes after this, and in the wake of checking her vitals, the family acknowledges Ellie has died. After that, Danny and Beth attempt to take Ellie to the emergency clinic, yet they find that the lift is breaking down. To help them, Beth turns to her neighbors Gabriel and Mr. Fonda, who aid in taking care of Ellie now. While Mr. Fonda goes to look for help, Beth admits her responsibility about her relationship with Ellie. Unexpectedly, a voice message from Ellie plays on her telephone, guaranteeing that she is consuming, and when Beth glances back at Ellie, she sees a fly in her eye, and Ellie restores with a flicker. All at once the children show up, and they find that their mom is still alive. Beth illuminates them that she is consuming, so they attempt to put her in a bath loaded up with cold water. Unexpectedly, Ellie feigns exacerbation and bounces back up against the wall, which appalls her family. Inflexible rapidly removes Cassie. What's more, very quickly Ellie slithers up the wall and lets out a puncturing shout that Gabriel and Mr. Fonda hear outside. The restroom mirrors are additionally crushed as a consequence of this, and she falls quiet briefly prior to falling once more into the bath. However, not long after, she arises from the bath, and when Danny calls for her mom, she answers that his mother is currently with parasites. Next, Ellie emerges from the restroom with a piece of glass shard and attempts to go after Beth. During the battle, the glass puncture is Beth's hand as she attempts to guard herself. Bridget intercedes and argues with her mom to quit, making Ellie divert her animosity toward the young lady. She wounds Bridget's cheek with a tattoo pen and endeavors to lick it. However, Danny utilizes a seat to thump her down, causing her to fall into a dull room. Following that, Gabriel shows up and Ellie rapidly moves to go after him. At last, the two of them leave the loft and Ellie nibbles his eye out prior to tossing her down. Seeing this, Beth locks her out and Ellie keeps on beating her head on the entryway. She quiets down sooner or later, however Beth sees from the peephole that Ellie is pursuing Jake and savagely killing him. Gabriel abruptly stands up and asks for help, yet Ellie shows up and digs his throat too. Now, Mr. Fonda shoots Ellie with his weapon, however she strikes him an occasion really disfigures him. Beth's passing. Later Bridget finds out if he accepts his mom looks like the pictures in the book anyway. Danny shifts the fault and an actual fight between the two follows. Beth intercedes to stop the circumstance and Danny says he needs to show her something. He presents the book. Also, unveils every one of the subtleties. In the meantime, Bridget sees that her injury is changing variety and becoming more obscure. Moreover, she overreacts when dark blood begins dribbling from her face. Promptly she endeavors to wash it off. Be that as it may, rather she winds up retching in huge multitude of bugs, which panics her. In the meantime, Cassie hears her mother singing a melody and continues to follow the voice. Ollie, in the long run, convinces Cassie to open the entryway, and when she does, Ellie snatches her by the throat anyway. Bethany Danny come to her guide and Beth figures out how to lock the entryway again. They before long hear a few clamors coming from the kitchen, and when Beth strolls inside she sees Bridget clustered on the kitchen counter. She sees Bridget chewing on a wine glass, who then giggles. Furthermore, spits in front of her, making Beth stun in reverse. Now Bridget creeps towards her and wounds her leg with a cheddar grater. However, Beth figures out how to thump her down. She then goes after Cassie, however Cassie unexpectedly skewers her with the sharp mark of a pull, currently accepting she is dead. Danny ties Bridget to the bed and feels remorseful for being answerable for the whole catastrophe. Subsequently, Danny gives Beth the book and vinyl collections that he accepts are the reason for the bedlam. Beth then disengages herself in a space to pay attention to the accounts. While listening, she hears the cleric examining how he needed to dispose of his head par.